Hello and welcome to PastCast. This is the official first episode of the series. This is episode 1. We've already done a pilot, or an episode 0, or whatever you want to call it. Did that almost a month ago now. It's been a while. I guess it's only been a couple weeks, but I wanted to do this official first episode a little bit sooner, but oh well, we're doing it now. It's happening, finally. And yeah, if you missed the pilot, you don't have to go and watch it. I'll just tell you what's going on right now. Basically, this is my new podcast-style show thing, and yeah, today we're just going to be answering questions, and typically I think it'll probably just be me here answering questions or discussing some sort of topic or reacting to news or something like that, usually related to our planet's past and paleontology and dinosaurs and prehistoric life and those sorts of things, although I'm totally not excluding other topics. If things get a little random, that's totally fine. And yeah. The main theme of this show really is just that it's low-key, and it's mostly just me rambling for like an hour or so. I may have guests and such on in the future, though, so it might not just be me, but for now, I'm alone. And yeah, a couple quick notes before we get started. First of all, random figure recommendation. The Papo caprisuchus is an amazing thing. Caprisuchus is a really cool critter. If you're not aware, it's, I don't know if its name literally means boar crocodile. I think it does, though, because that's certainly the nickname that it's garnered. And for good reason. It has these massive sort of tusk-like teeth that kind of remind you of a wild boar, even though it was actually a terrestrial crocodile from, I think, the early Cretaceous, I want to say, something like that. And anyhow, yeah, Papos? Other people pronounce it that way. I never do, though. I don't know what's happening in my brain right now. Papo's model of this Caprisuchus is wonderful. I have it on my desk right here to inspire me as I record this episode of PastCast. And yeah, it's like a little taxidermy of a real crocodilian. The scales and all that are just so lifelike and well done. I don't remember the last time I was this hyped over a Papo figure, because I don't normally really like Papo that much at all. But this figure's great. So, random little recommendation for you. The other note is you may notice that the audio quality is way better. Last episode, I was trying really hard not to peak the meters, not to get too many plosives and things like that, and so I was really backing off the mic. I was like back here. Last episode was pretty much recorded like this. So now, being much closer to the mic should sound way better. It should sound crisper, fuller, more bass. But if you guys have any suggestions, any comments about the audio quality, please let me know. I'm very finicky with audio quality. I'm a total perfectionist with it. So if you guys have any ideas on how to improve it further, then let me know. Oh, the other thing is that last time, rather than using my windscreen pop filter, which I'm using today, I actually just put like a heavy wool sock over the microphone, which sort of, I mean, it did successfully, you know, keep me from having any plosives or anything like that, but it also just, horribly muffled it. So yeah, it was a bit unfortunate. So anyhow, today we are, like I said, answering some questions. That's the only thing on today's agenda. Last time, we were answering questions from this community post I made forever ago, like 11 months back, for a Q&A video that never happened. So I basically just decided to answer them on this show, so that at least I'd answer them in some format. And today we're answering questions from a far more recent post. I just accidentally clicked into Discord, and there's this amazing GIF of a frog. Okay, I'm gonna close out of Discord, actually, so I don't get distracted. Anyhow, so I meant to bring up Notepad. That's where I have my questions. And anyhow, yeah, we're answering questions, rather, from a post I made just a couple weeks ago on the community tab of my channel. And yeah, you guys actually, I got more responses on this than I did on the post from 11 months ago, so I have even more stuff to go over. So, heck yeah, this is gonna be pretty cool. Anyhow, first question by Dinoxels. Fantastic fella in the community. Follow his Instagram. Seriously, he's got cool photos and stuff. You'll find him easily. He's got the Papo Spinosaurus, the new one, in his profile picture. Anyhow, random shout out to a cool dude. He actually has a few questions here. He had 6. I'm going to be answering 5 of them. I sort of picked and chose from people who did multiple questions, just sort of picked the ones I wanted to answer. So anyhow, his first question is a really good one, and that is, what are your future plans for your musical hobby? So, obviously, being that this is PastCast, we're already straying to a different topic, but I'll answer this quickly. For anyone who's unaware, I shouted this out in the last episode actually as well, so anyone who brings this up, I'm just thankful for it, because this is a project that I really care about, but that not many people know about. And my musical project is, of course, Spitfire Tree. That's my name of my solo music project, where I'm producing songs and such. I only have demos and loops and, like, instrumental, experimental stuff up. I haven't really released a proper track yet, but if you want to go follow that, you can on YouTube and on SoundCloud. There's a link to the YouTube channel on this YouTube channel, and there's always a link in the description, I think. Is there a link in the description? Hopefully there is. Anyhow, so that's cool. But as far as what my future plans for it are, obviously right now, I mean, I've barely done anything with it, haven't even released a proper single. And so my plans right now are just to finish recording. I've already written my first album, so I'm going to record it, and then I'm going to release it, and I hope to do that next year, actually. Basically, for the rest of 2020, I'm going to be saving up the money I need in order to get the full version of the audio recording software that I use to record and mix my music, which is Ableton. I really love Ableton, but I only have Ableton Lite, which only lets you use 8 tracks, and it's utterly painful. So I'm going to be getting the full software for that, and I'll probably also be buying an actual piano, because I've been playing and recording some stuff on my my electric piano, my keyboard, and it's just not the same as an actual acoustic piano. So yeah, I'm going to try to get just like a cheap upright, like, used piano, not anything too fancy. And then next year I can spend actually recording that album, and I'm super excited to put it out. It really means a lot to me, because music is kind of my number one artistic passion, which might be funny for some people to think about, just because you all know me as a video creator, as a photographer, if nothing else. And those are kind of the things that I've been doing for years on the internet. And yeah, the music has always been a part of my life, though. I've always been listening to it, and now I'm finally actually sitting down and making it. So that's pretty cool. Anyhow, the next question is a little more related to this channel, and that is, what are your plans for Toady? So Toady is obviously a series I have on this channel of where dinosaurs are talking, and they're toys, and they go on adventures and such, and it's hopefully funny, since that's the intention. It is a comedy 90% of the time, except sometimes it just becomes a drama, because there has to be plot, right? But anyhow, what are my plans for Toady? Right now, I actually have some very specific plans for this show. I may have talked about this a little before, but I think this is the first proper announcement that I have this show planned and, how would you say, sort of structured out all the way to episode 22, I believe. It's basically a loose first season arc. I don't think I'm actually gonna, like, properly separate the videos into seasons, but there will be sort of loose arcs, so that I'll have natural stopping points, so the series isn't just like a thing that goes on with an indefinite flow, because I want to be able to end it properly when it eventually does end, since all things come to an end, even though I plan on doing it for a good while still. And so anyhow, I'm sort of giving myself an arc of, like I said, about 20 more, well, not 20 more, but 22 episodes in total, including the ones that have come out so far. A proper arc to sort of reach a sort of a finale that could work, although I plan to continue it past episode 22 right now, but who knows? I may feel differently when I get there. But yeah, I've specifically, like, fully down to every piece of dialogue and all that, I've properly scripted out. Let's see, what was the last episode that came out? It was 8, I believe. So episodes 9, 10, and 11, those are all actually scripted out. And then episodes 12 through 22, I believe it is, are all just sort of loosely laid out and sort of structured. And I've got little brief sort of synopses written of just what's going to happen in those episodes, and how the plot is going to develop and all that. So I'm super excited. I think Toady. I think Toady's a really fun series. I've really been enjoying making it. It's definitely my favorite story-based thing that I've ever done. As this channel progresses, sort of like story-based written content is really not becoming my favorite thing. I'm definitely trying to slowly make a bit more of a move towards more sort of discussionary vlog format sort of stuff, which this show definitely fits into. But Toady is definitely the one sort of written, like, fiction sort of thing that I'm still doing on the channel that I really, truly, like, fully enjoy. I've still got other projects in that sort of area that I need to finish, obviously, that most of you are probably aware of. But anyhow, Toady's the one that's actually the funnest. So I'm excited to do more of that. These next few episodes, specifically, episodes, like I said, 9, 10, and 11, I am so hyped for them. Like, oh my god, I'm so hyped to actually voice act them in particular, because there's some dialogue that I have written that I am way too proud of. I've like just been laughing reading my own script. And so hopefully I'm not just going insane. Hopefully there's actual funny things. But you guys, I think, should enjoy it, because that's the other great thing about Toady. It's one of my most well-received things that I do currently. My reviews are not really getting a lot of views. This show isn't getting a whole lot of attention, which is totally fine because it just started out. I didn't expect anything crazy. But Toady actually does quite well. I can easily get each episode to 1,000 views or more, which, you know, isn't a lot compared to what I was able to do, like, say, 3 years ago with my videos in general. But for the current state of the channel, I'll take it. That's pretty great. So anyhow, that's pretty much what's going on with Toady. The next episode, episode 9, is going to be called Suspects, and they're going to be trying to figure out who shot a certain character. So anyhow, next question from Dinoxels is, am I the only person who felt like when the Kappa hysteria hit, that a break from making YouTube videos was just relaxing? This is kind of a fun question, because my answer is just yeah. Not yes. Not yes, you were the only person. Rather, no, I agree. I'm so dumb. No, yeah, my answer is no, you're not the only person. Yes, I also felt that way. Yeah, obviously when Kappa hit, I took quite a while off YouTube. I privated all my videos just to sit back and watch other people deal with it and see how it was actually being enforced, and eventually I came to the decision to return. But of course, I was pretty darn committed for a while to actually moving over to IGTV as my primary video making platform, and working on a personal website to load some of my old videos on and stuff, and it was fun. It was a bit of an odd time. I'm glad that I've moved in a different direction. Obviously, I haven't talked a lot about my, like, thought process and why I came back and stuff. I haven't really addressed it at all, and there is more to talk about there. I don't think I'll talk about that right now. But yeah, no, getting back to the meat of this question, yeah, the break from, like, spending a bunch of time on YouTube specifically, changing to a different platform, being a little more chill and less ambitious with my video projects, I thought it was nice. I thought it was for sure very nice. So, yeah, there you go. Next question is kind of a biggie. In fact, should I... You know what? I'm going to save that one for next after this. We're going to do Dinoxel's last question first here. So his last question is, he says, and finally, when are we going to get that JWFK review that you promised in early 2019? I know it's a so bad it's good movie for you, and I would love to hear your thoughts. I don't know if I'll ever release a full review on JWFK now. I know that I said I was going to at that time. The story of how I watched that movie is hilarious. Obviously, being that it was early 2019, I watched it a little bit after it actually came out. I rented it on DVD. And, I watched it right after getting my wisdom teeth removed. So I was, like, still partially high on the drugs from that. And, I watched it and was just laughing my ass off. It was such an absurd, cartoonish movie. It was like a Jurassic Park Scooby-Doo crossover. May as well have been. And, yeah, I thoroughly loved it as just like a ridiculous, so bad it's good thing. I was like, there was also a morbid curiosity element, because as the movie went on, I was like, how stupid is this gonna get? And it just kept going lower. And so yeah, I don't know if I'll do a review, because I don't know if I have much more to say about it than that, really. And so many people have already talked about it. It's been out for years now, but maybe I will. It would be neat to talk a little more about that movie, perhaps. The final thing I'll say here is Stygia Moloch for life. Anyhow, so here's the question that I skipped because I wanted to save it. Dinoxel's last question that we're going to be answering. He says, as your life moves on, will you still post on this channel? Hoo boy, that is, like I said, it's a biggie. This is a big loaded question with lots of things to go into. If you had phrased it just a little differently, if you had phrased this simply, as your life moves on, will you still be doing YouTube? Then the answer would just be, yep, moving on. But the fact that he specifies this channel, it does somewhat change my answer, I have to admit. Because this channel, as much as I have, gotten a lot of great stuff out of it, there is a certain aspect to still making videos on it that makes me feel like I'm sort of tied to an old identity. And I kind of want to escape some of that identity in the future, escape some of that baggage, perhaps. I really do think that while I never really see myself quitting making YouTube videos because I just enjoy this as a hobby too much for that, unless other things genuinely take up, like, all of my time and they are more important, that is foreseeable, potentially. But in terms of posting on this channel specifically, yeah, I can't see myself posting on this channel forever. And if I'm being honest, I can't see myself posting on it for too much longer. Don't freak out. This isn't like, hey, I'm quitting next week. But I'll say Bioniclesaurus definitely at least has another good year in it. But I feel like after 2021, it's probably going to be a little more up in the air. I'm already planning a potential new channel to become my main channel. And obviously, when I say that, some people may be confused because they're like, well, this one's the biggest. This is where you've grown most of your audience. This is where you've met your friends and all this stuff in this community. Won't this channel always be the main one? And for me, the answer is no. What I really mean by a main channel isn't just whichever one is largest or whichever one has the most videos on it or something like that. It's the one that I'm doing full time at any given moment. And Bioniclesaurus has always been that channel. I have other channels. I have the YouTube channel for my music project, Spitfire Tree, like I said. I also have a Lego channel called The Watching Relic, but they've always been complete side projects that I don't post on nearly as much. With Spitfire Tree, it's sort of a tangential thing to the actual project where it's like, well, I want to write and produce music, so I guess I need some social media for that. It's not even really, like, the YouTube channel itself isn't really an entity, more as it's just more of a branch, if that makes sense. But anyhow, yeah, no, so Bioniclesaurus has always been my full-time channel. And I do think that it's not even possible that it's going to happen one day that I will take up a different channel full-time. Probably not one of the ones that currently exists, because I'm actually, obviously Spitfire Tree as a project I may take up much more full-time and probably will, especially next year. But as far as like a YouTube channel that exists just for sake of existing, that where just the YouTube channel itself is where that project ends, it's not a branch off of some greater artistic thing, it's just a YouTube channel. I've already sort of, like I said, I've been planning a potential new one. I don't know if I should exactly reveal too much about it, but safe to say it's completely unrelated to kind of what Bioniclesaurus has been about. Well, actually not completely, because I've posted some stuff on here that would fit on this channel. But the point is a lot of times when I've sort of thought about the future of YouTube, I've thought about it either too vague or too similar to Bioniclesaurus. It's either been like, yeah, I'll do something different, more personal or more vloggy or something, but not really defining it beyond that. Or I'm like, well, I'll just, Bioniclesaurus will take a different form, but it'll still kind of be what it is. And lately I've been more and more feeling the urge to genuinely take up full-time a new channel that's just about a new, specific, different topic from what I've done on this channel and my other pre-existing channels. So, anyhow, that's the big, long answer. Again, obviously, I don't have too many firm plans. My vague plan at this point is, like I said, Bioniclesaurus has another good year in it. I think 2021, I'm going to try and finish most of my major sort of loose-end projects on this channel. And then, by the time 2022 rolls around, that might be when I start looking to move on to something new, which I think is genuinely pretty exciting. Oh my gosh, I just had to drink so much water. I had an enchilada for dinner, and it's just like salt. Like salt. Also, I probably just haven't drank enough today. So anyhow, our next couple questions come from a couple of my absolute best friends, not just in this community, but in general. They're fantastic people. I have two questions here from Spino Dude Reviews. Yes, that's his name. That's clearly his name. Spino Dude asks, first of all, when is PastCast ending? It's been going for far too long. Yeah, I agree, Spino Dude. This show has been going for way too long. It's very stale. We've had so many episodes. We're just doing the same thing over and over again. It's a big problem. I think I'll probably end it around episode, 1020, 1030. Obviously, we're getting pretty close to that, so, yeah, sorry. I guess we're almost to the end of PastCast. His other question is, why are you my friend? Do you wish to steal my bird? The answer is yes. You're a terrible person, and no one would ever actually be friends with you. We're just here for Petey. We want your bird, and we want him in our stomachs. He's going to be the Thanksgiving turkey this year at the annual Dinotube Feast, because that's totally a thing. I don't know how a budgie is going to feed so many people, but we're gonna find a way. Anyhow, and then the next question is from another good friend, Dino Man. He says, who would win in a fight? A walrus with katanas for tusks, or 10 penguins that know kung fu? Okay. So assuming that the walrus, its tusks are actually literally the swords called katanas, my money's on the penguins. All right, there's 10 of them, and they know kung fu. They can hit him in all those weak spots and flip around and be all agile and crap. I think they will absolutely take the victory. However, there's a loophole to this question that could allow the glorious blubbery walrus to take home the victory instead. And that's that on this channel there's a Utah Raptor character named Katana. So I'm going to assume that out of the lips of that walrus are 2 full-sized adult Utah Raptors fused to the mouth of the creature at the tail. And if that's the case, then definitely the walrus double Utah Raptor monster wins. So anyhow, there you go. Obviously, that was the logical answer you were looking for. The next 2 questions come from Magnus101. First question he asks is, can you do another episode of The Worst Dinosaurs? I really liked the Noasaurus review. So I did kind of do a second episode. If you're not aware, Magnus, I did a brief Worst Dinosaurs segment in I believe it was the 2018 Bionicosaurus Spooktacular, which was my Halloween special for that year. So you can go check that out if you haven't, although you may have, so I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not. The answer, in short, is no. It was fun reviewing a terrible, cheap dinosaur toy, and I thought that it would be a fun idea for a series, but the problem is that I think it would only work from now on if I were to continue it, if every single video I had, either something interesting to talk about that was prompted by the toy, kind of like a YDAW episode, or if the toy was just exceptionally bad and really strange and just interesting and funny in itself. The average bad dinosaur toy is going to have the same issues as all other typical bad, cheap dinosaur toys, so there's just not that much interesting to talk about, I think. So, yeah, that's kind of my short answer to that. The next question he asks is, I know Raptor Boy was the person who mainly inspired you, but did Gloppy605 also help inspire you to do videos on YouTube and your series and such? The answer is absolutely yes. Gloppy605, man, for how old his videos are, they're surprisingly well made. That's some good freaking production quality on that toy dinosaur documentary he's got over there. Seriously, he did a really good job. I mean, obviously, there's some stuff we'd probably cringe at now. I'm sure it doesn't hold up 100%, but considering it was posted in 2010 or something, the reboot brief installment of his series Prehistoric is, I think, still pretty darn watchable and pretty darn well done. And it definitely impressed me as a kid. Yeah, I think Raptor Boy was the one who literally, inspired me originally to do what I ended up doing, but Gloppy's series probably had more direct influence in terms of me later trying to increase the quality of my series and make it better, because I think Gloppy genuinely did a better job with the overall production quality, at least with his reboot. His original weird outdoor kind of bad stop motion version of Prehistoric was pretty terrible. I mean, it was neat, especially as a kid, but I don't think it'd hold up at all now. But the reboot he did with the live action, puppeting and stuff, puppeteering, worked out way better and obviously more directly inspired the style of a lot of my early videos. The next two questions come from Delta Dromius 505. He says, if you're still in college, how's that going? That's his first question. I'm actually not in college currently because I graduated. I have my associative arts degree, and yeah, that's pretty neat. I was assuming this fall that I would be going to university, but for reasons that perhaps you can figure out, that's not happening. So I'm assuming that, I'm just going to sort of knuckle under, and if I go back to school, I'll just do it, relatively soon and do it online. There's also a chance I won't go back to school because there's a chance that I'll just do the music thing full time. I could definitely dive in here to all the things going through my head related to my sort of career planning because it's definitely something I've been thinking about a lot lately. But assuming I do go back to school, yeah, I mean, there's a part of my brain that's like, I really wish I could physically actually go back, just because that would be neat, especially going to a university. It'd be a cool experience. But right now, I think I'm just going to have to accept that in any sort of near future situation, save for things that are way in the future, I'm going to have to accept that it's going to happen digitally, which is fine. I mean, there's a well-appreciated convenience to that I recognize. But it is a little strange to think about. I don't... When are we going to have, like, that stuff happening, like, physically where it actually feels safe? I know that we're already, like, talking about sending kids back to school, and some people maybe are going back to school just with, like, serious precautions. I don't know exactly what's going on, but all I know is that right now in the U.S., I would not go back to physical school. Like, part of this is my own comfort zone. Even after things go back to, quote, normal, if they do anytime remotely soon, which I don't think they will. I think it's going to be a while. But even if they were to, in just a couple months, somehow get back to normal, if COVID had some huge spike and then went away and we're like, okay, it's good, I don't think I'd step outside again for another, like, year. Like, I'd give it a wide berth. Seriously, maybe I'm a hypochondriac, but quite frankly, I feel as though I've spent the last, majority of 2020 I've spent it just staring at my own country failing to react to this situation well, so I'm just being as careful as possible. Second question from Delta Dromius 505 is, do you still plan on tracking down those really old Carnegie figures, such as the Deinonychus, Maiasaura, etc.? The answer is kind of. Me and Spino Dude right now are exchanging packages. We got each other some Collect A stuff. I sent him my Collect A Acro and Spino as well, because I don't want them, and he kind of is curious about them. And he's actually sending me the old black and yellow Carnegie Stegosaurus. Not the newer paint job with, like, the patterning, but literally the super old paint job where it's just yellow on bottom, black on top. Pretty darn cool. I'm hyped because I love old Carnegie stuff. I think it's neat and has a serious charm and really a lot of nostalgia for me for obvious reasons, since it was where I started collecting. And yeah, so I do somewhat plan on still tracking down some of those figures. I still kind of want the Mosasaurus, but not enough to really, like, I don't know. The Deinonychus would be super cool. The Maiasaura, the Protoceratops, the original Smilodon would be kind of neat. There's lots of old Carnegie figures that I am indeed still interested in. I think it's a really cool sort of era of Safari Ltd. As a company, going back and looking at the oldest stuff from that collection. There are some cool, weird little, like, obscure models from that era, and I'm totally still interested in that stuff, so yeah. Fossil Pharaoh has five questions for us. Question number 1, he says, is what is your favorite TV show? My favorite show of all time is Breaking Bad, which is probably not a super, obscure or unique choice. I think it's a lot of people's favorite show, and for good reason. It is gorgeously shot, creatively shot, just wonderfully produced, well written. It's got iconic characters, amazing performances from its actors. Breaking Bad is just fantastic, and I love all these spin-off things we've gotten. Better Call Saul is a wonderful spin-off show that I've been incredibly enjoying. I'm actually only a little bit into the latest season. I really need to get back to it. And I also really enjoyed the El Camino movie. That was really neat. I don't remember the last time I watched a movie that felt so many movies now are just so huge that I feel like having theaters shut down and having a lot of more sort of independent-ish things happening are pretty cool. Not that this was necessarily an independent film, but it had that vibe. It felt lower budget, it felt simpler, smaller scale, more intimate, really creative, and just, it was really well done, and I dug it. Next question is, what is your favorite movie? My favorite movie of all time is Blade Runner 2049, closely followed by, the first Blade Runner, the first Jurassic Park. I've got some other things in there that I really love, of course. I do have lists somewhere in a Google Doc of all my favorite shows and movies, but these are just the ones that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. What are some other movie honorable mentions? Several of my favorite horror movies are also my favorite just movies of all time. So Alien, The Shining, The Exorcist, those are three that come to mind as far as just favorite films go. My favorite of all time is Blade Runner 2049. The atmosphere, the cinematography, the music, the emotional notes that story hits on and the way the story is executed. It's just a beautiful movie. I've never watched a movie I can more adequately describe as being beautiful. Go watch it. Do it now. Next question. What's your favorite comic book character? Now, I thought about this one a bit. I did go through these questions before recording this and just kind of thought about what my answers would be. And honestly, it's a really boring pick, but I have to go with Spooderman. Spider-Man is just, I don't know. It's everything you've already heard about Spider-Man. That is why I like him. Just the obvious appeal of him being this young high schooler, this sort of outcast, nerdy kid who is in way over his head, and it's just really cool. And as far as movie depictions go, obviously the Tom Holland Spider-Man is just excellent, and I really don't care for any of the others at this point. I mean, I still like the Tobey Maguire one, because I watched those movies growing up, and they're very nostalgic, and in particular, Spider-Man 2 is sick, with frickin' Dr. Octopus and the hospital scene and stuff. There's some stuff in that movie that's great, but I actually haven't seen Far From Home yet, but Tom Holland in Civil War and in Infinity War and of course in Homecoming, he's just a great dude. He does such a perfect job, and I always forget that he's actually British too. That's pretty crazy. It's always funny with accents, right? Someone can do an accent that's not American. Like if someone does a fake British accent or a fake Irish accent, I probably won't know the difference. I'll never be able to tell that it's fake. But a lot of times, the one accent you can usually identify as being fake is your own, right? So whenever someone does a really convincing American accent, I always have to really step back and be like, hold on, that's impressive that I didn't even pick up on that. So there you go. Anyhow, that's my answer to that. Some honorable mentions, though. I do also love me some Iron Man. I love me some Captain America, actually. That's a character that's really grown on me greatly in recent years. And I love pretty much everything to do with Guardians of the Galaxy, and I love Deadpool, so there's some other characters here that are definitely worth mentioning. But in general, I'm not really a comic book reader. Most of my exposure through to these characters is through broader media, in terms of movies and shows and stuff, so... Question number 4 is, what's your favorite episode of every show you have on your channel? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the latest episode of each show. I don't think it'd be anything other than that, honestly. When it's your own show and you're trying to improve, usually the latest thing you make is gonna be what you're most proud of. Final question from Fossil Pharaoh here. He says, what is your favorite part of making a show/film? Is it the writing, filming, editing, audience reactions, or feeling that you've actually accomplished something? I love that he put actually in there, as if accomplishing something is unusual. Oh boy. Anyhow, no, it kind of is, though, these days. Actually finishing a big complex project for the channel is pretty satisfying, and there is definitely a sense of wow, I haven't done that in a while. So writing, I think I gotta go with writing. I mean, I'll go through the others first and kind of my feelings on them, the other main points of the process. Filming can be really fun. Working with lighting and angles and the visuals and things and just composing shots can be really enjoyable, but it can also get tedious pretty quickly. Editing is definitely my least favorite part of the video making experience, like by far. It can be really rewarding. There are definitely some things I've made where like my proudest element of the project is like usually specifically the sound design is the part of editing that I end up being the most proud of. And so that is pretty cool. It can be neat in terms of the results you get, but I can't think of anything more tedious and more time-consuming than editing. The audience reactions can be really great, but they can also be really, really demotivating sometimes, because sometimes they're not very positive. But thankfully, I've been pretty lucky to have mostly positive reactions to most of the stuff I make on this channel, so that is wonderful. And of course, the feeling of accomplishment is also pretty great. But no, writing is my favorite part, because ultimately my favorite part of any sort of video where it's complex enough that there's actually like writing and stuff involved, my goal usually is to tell a story. Usually I only really script out and properly write videos that are, you know, like I said, like story-based stuff or fictional things. Actual narrative content. That's the term I'm looking for. And so, yeah, and the reason I like making that is to tell a story. That's my favorite part of that thing. That's my motive for really doing it. And so, yeah, writing is definitely my favorite part of making any sort of show or film or anything like that, because that's really the core of what telling the story is. Making the actual thing is more so just communicating that pre-existing story you've already written through a specific medium to communicate it to your audience. And that's fantastic as well. That can be very rewarding, but of course that also can get really tedious and really exhausting, demotivating. I'm sometimes inspired to do it, but of course as time goes on, you know, I've been finding less and less time and motivation for that sort of stuff. Whereas writing, oh, I can write all day. I mean, I don't know if I've talked about it too much. I think I may have mentioned this in the last episode, but I am working on, well, I'm actually working on more than one novel. I have a sort of big sci-fi space opera that I'm working on, called Ignition. And I also have a medieval fantasy book called Brimstone that I'm working on. And I also have another sort of like sci-fi dystopia novel that I've been working on called Black the Sun. These are all working titles, of course. Although I do like them all so far, but they're all subject to change. And anyhow, yeah, so writing is just something I like to do in general, related to or not related to making videos, and it is definitely a dream of mine, not even a dream, but an active goal of mine to finish those books and release them so people can read them, because I think that'd be really cool. So anyhow, maybe I'll talk more about my books in the future. In particular, even though none of them are actively related to dinosaurs in the past, Black the Sun specifically incorporates a lot of real science in its science fiction. So that one would actually be pretty fun. It'd be pretty fun to dive into the world building I've developed for that series on an episode of this show. The basic premise is that one day the sun just basically gets as dim as the moon. Like, you can still see it, but it's not really producing any meaningful light or heat. So we have to find out how to survive without the sun, essentially. Whether or not that would even really be feasible is questionable, I understand, but I think I've found some pretty convincing ways to develop a world in which that is something they have to deal with. So anyhow, the next question comes from Colosaurus Dickinsoni, another somewhat more prominent dude in the community. And he asks, do you plan on getting any more reptiles in the future? This is a fantastic question. I love reptiles. Prehistoric ones, of course, are what I talk about most of all on this channel, but modern reptiles, in many ways, are where even more of my passion is, because, you know, they're alive and I can work with them and hang out with them. So, if you're not familiar with my reptiles, you can go check out, I think it's the channel trailer on my channel right now, or like the featured video is actually my latest reptile room tour, and if not, you can just go search it up or scroll through my videos. It's not too old, so it should be easy to find. And yeah, I have 7 snakes and a lizard. My lizard is, of course, a demigod. Yeah, as far as other reptiles that I would like to get, I do have a few more snakes that I am kind of interested in. There are some larger snakes, like I would really love to get an actual boa constrictor. I have a rainbow boa, but like something where the actual species is boa constrictor would be pretty cool. I also think I don't think I can convince my parents on this one because they're really not a fan of anacondas in general because they just think they look ugly and they're mean and weird. But I really like yellow anacondas. A green anaconda would be cool too, but obviously I don't have near the room. It's also questionable whether that's really a one-person snake in terms of handling, whether that's really safe. And having a snake where I need two people to like handle it safely is just an inconvenience I don't really want to deal with right now. But a yellow anaconda is absolutely a snake I would love to keep. And then as far as like smaller stuff goes, there's some colubrids I'm really interested in. There are some very classic like milk snakes and king snakes, like just the black and white cow kings or Pueblan and Sinaloan milk snakes and stuff that I would be really into keeping. And also one of my favorite snakes ever that I really hope I get to keep at some point is the bamboo rat snake. They are just... Oh my gosh, there were two at a convention I went to several years ago that I should have gotten one of them. I regret to this day not getting one because I've never seen them anywhere else. They're not very common. I think they're getting a little more common, so I'm keeping my eyes peeled. Oh, and then green tree python, I always forget. I'm not as interested in green tree pythons as I used to be, but my dad is super interested in them, so I'll probably end up getting one if I get more snakes, just because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to escape his constant excitement for that particular species, which is warranted. It's a very cool snake, and I would love to work with one. But despite there being some snakes that I'm still interested in, I have to say that because I mostly have snakes now, the animals I'm more so interested in are non-snakes. So, like, there are some amphibians that I'd love to work with, specifically... red-eyed tree frogs would be a dream of mine. And also some of the poison frogs, like dart frogs and stuff, would be really, really cool. Also, along with amphibians, speaking of things that are not actually reptiles, of course, you specifically asked about reptiles, Colosaurus, but another animal that I'd be interested in keeping, or another group of animals, would be actually invertebrates. And I have to drink some water real quick. I'll be back. Okay, now we got that taken care of. Yeah, invertebrates. That's definitely a group of creatures that I am very interested in. Specifically, tarantulas are pretty darn cool. Some of the arboreal tarantulas, like the pink-toed tree tarantula and stuff, in particular, really appeal to me, and I would love to work with them in the future. There are some terrestrial tarantulas, like the Mexican red knees, that are pretty neat, but in general, they seem a little more boring, because they sort of just sit there in their holes. But they look cool. Also, emperor scorpions are neat. What are some other invertebrates I really want? The giant spiny stick insects are incredible creatures. Giant African millipede. A giant African millipede might be my favorite invertebrate to keep, or the one I'm most excited to keep, period. I really want a giant millipede. I hate centipedes. Centipedes are just hellspawn. They scare me so much with how fast they move and their big pincers and stuff, but millipedes are the bomb. So anyhow, also orchid mantises. I don't know if you can even keep those as pets, but if you can, I'd love to. Now, getting back to reptiles proper, like I said, I do have a few snakes I'm into, but I've really been looking at a lot of lizards I might want, because the only lizard species I've ever kept is bearded dragons, and they're fantastic. They are just miracles of little dudes. But there are some other lizards I'd be really, really interested in. For instance, fire skinks. I've been really looking into fire skinks because I think they're pretty cool. Red-eyed crocodile skinks are crazy looking, and I would really love to keep them. I know they have a shorter lifespan and they can be kind of delicate, but it seems worth it to me, even putting in the extra work for less time with the animal, because they are wild looking. That is a badass lizard. And then the lizard that I really actually... oh no! My pop filter went on the keyboard, everything. Am I still recording? I didn't hit a button. No, we're good. Okay, minor disaster averted. As I was saying, there are two species of lizard that I am very, very interested in that are sort of on the dream lizard end of things. Actually, there's three. Maybe there's even more than three, but I'll just name three here because I need to move on to the next question. Number one, this is the one I'll probably never really have space and time to keep, but it'd be really cool. Cayman lizard. Then the Abronia, or the Mexican alligator lizard, that would be a dream. And then right now, the one I'm looking at most actively, because I think it'd be the most realistic for me to keep right now, is actually the Ackie monitor. I can't think of a better monitor. It's just the perfect monitor. I mean, yes. I want it. It's small. It's got a relatively chill disposition for a monitor. They need tons of bedding because they like to burrow down, and then they have their crazy hotspot and stuff. They got really unique kind of setup. The care might not be the easiest in the world, but they're super hardy. I want an Ackie monitor real bad. Anyhow, so that's the reptile question. Hey, guess what? The next question is explicitly related to dinosaurs and prehistoric life. Are you shocked? I'm a little shocked. Okay, so this question comes from Dino Sawyer, and he asks, thoughts on Planet Dinosaur 2011? I really like Planet Dinosaur, actually. It has, to date, some of the most photorealistic, well-detailed models I've ever seen in a documentary, specifically the Allosaurus and the Saurophaganax. There are some shots, like, close-up on their heads and stuff, that just look really, really good. I always think of those, like, when I think of this documentary in general, those are the depictions, the reconstructions that first pop into my head. But there are some flaws with it. I mean, just talking about the effects, even though the models are really well detailed and really realistic, the designs are not always the greatest in terms of, like, creativity, and some of the designs straight up look a little weird. And the movement, the actual animation, is kind of questionable at times. They kind of waddle and shuffle around a lot, the dinosaurs, that is. Yeah, I don't know. In general, though, I like that documentary. I understand people's problems with it. It doesn't have much of a narrative or a story. It feels kind of fragmented. Lots of short sort of segments with these constant little breaks to bring up all those fancy little science, like, graphics to teach you things. I think it's neat. I liked the overall style, and there are some specific segments that I really like. The Spinosaurus segment is another one that comes to mind when it's fishing and moving around in the swamp and everything. Just really cool kind of atmosphere. But that is one of the rare times in the show where the environment was actually cool and the atmosphere was actually, like, kind of immersive, because that's another problem with this show, is sometimes the environments feel a little sterile, I think. But overall, I'm definitely more positive than negative on Planet Dinosaur. It's really the last, like, high quality and good in terms of information, like, documentary we've kind of gotten. And it was 2011, 9 years ago. Oh my gosh. Jesus. Seriously, though, I mean, we've gotten some other neat documentaries, but in terms of ones that have really good, like, CGI depictions of the dinosaurs and such, or animatronics, or whatever you want to use, just good special effect renditions of the creatures, I mean, it's kind of the last one I can think of. I mean, there's some other documentaries we've had that have had good information and things like that, but in terms of documentaries that really try to immerse you in the prehistoric world and reconstruct it in a visual and narrative way, that's really the last one I can think of that has done even a decent job. So that's kind of sad. But no, there's definitely some good stuff. There's flaws with it, but overall I like it. Ooh, the next question comes from another friend of mine. Oh, I should have put this up with Dino Man and Spino Dude. This comes from KikiZilla101. He says, so where is MI? You know, I don't know. The guy who made MI, you know, he spent like a year and a half just hyping the heck out of that show. Then he finally released the prologue, and then it takes forever to release the first episode, even longer to release the second one. And then he keeps talking about how, oh, well, most of it's canceled, but I'm still doing the first season. And I'm like, where's episode 3, man? Where's episode 3? Obviously, I'm very much in a good position to critique this person who has made this series, because my series, Dinosaur Island, has always come out at a perfect, consistent schedule. I mean, look at the last episode. I'll tell you one thing about the last episode. It's not over a year old, and this latest season has not been going for almost 2 years. No, not at all. Not even close. You would be a fool to think such a thing. Oh yes, that was a fantastic answer to that question. I think I really comforted people with that, really set their minds at ease. All right, the next question comes from Tyrannorex 792.000. I don't know what the numbers are about, but Tyrannorex has 4 questions for us. He says, first of all, how have you, your pets, and your family been doing? I apologize if I'm coughing and, like, clearing my throat a lot. Talking for this long, it's just hard to get used to, especially because I haven't been streaming lately. If I stream more, it'll warm up my voice a little bit better, possibly, and hopefully that this will be easier. I'm totally losing my ability to speak coherently, so let's just get a move on. Thank you very much, Tyrannorex, for just asking how me and the other living things in my household are doing. That's a very nice, simple question, and it's good to know that you care and stuff. We've been doing pretty good. There have been some tensions and some discomforts in terms of just, quarantine, and now, of course, oh my god, I can't believe I haven't even mentioned it. I meant to mention it at the beginning of the episode. Washington literally looks like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. It's literally orange outside. We are currently in the middle of a giant cloud of forest fire smoke from, I believe, eastern Washington, and now all of western Washington, like down to San Francisco and even further south, all the way up to here, is completely, it's just coated in smog and smoke. We're not allowed to go outside, especially if you have asthma or something like that, but even just normal people, it's terrible out there. You're breathing, everything's just screwed up. Don't go outside. Don't enter the mist. Seriously though, it's crazy. I wish that this was a show where I could show visuals, but you could just look it up. This may be an audio only experience, but you could look it up for yourself. If you look up specifically some of the drone footage of San Francisco, it is legitimately shocking. Like I said, it's orange outside right now. Well, right now it's black because it's nighttime. But lately it has been orange. But even crazier than that, the other day I woke up and there was a violent orange glow at my window on the other side of the curtains. But I'd actually woken up a little bit before that and then gone back to bed. I just woken up briefly from a dream or something, and my curtains were literally red. It wasn't even orange, it was red outside. So thankfully that's the only time it's been red. It hasn't gotten that bad again. But the air quality is still in the purple, I think, which means it's bad. So anyhow, that's been a bit tough to deal with, but in general, we're doing okay. The next question is, what is your favorite fictional character? Oh my gosh. I mean, wow, I forgot that he asked this. I know I went through these questions, but it was a couple days ago. I forgot about this one. This is a very broad, difficult question. We already talked about favorite comic book character, so I guess I can throw Spider-Man in as a contender, but I don't think he'd win. I'm trying to think of the best characters from Breaking Bad in that whole universe. Probably my favorite ones are Jesse and Mike, so I'll put them in as contenders. There's also some definite characters from the Song of Ice and Fire series and Game of Thrones and such that I really like. My favorites from that show, I don't watch the show anymore because it's over, and it also ended incredibly, horribly, poorly, disappointing. Just the ending was literal hot trash. I'm reading the books now. Thank goodness. They're better than the show ever even was. I love the books, or at least so far I do. I'm halfway through Clash of Kings. It could get horrible at any moment, but I doubt it because people love this series greatly. And anyhow, so in that fictional universe, probably my favorites are Peter Baelish, Littlefinger, Varys, Ned Stark, Tywin Lannister. Yeah, those are kind of my go-tos, but there are definitely others. And what are some other fictional properties I enjoy? Oh, well, there is The Expanse. One of my favorite characters from The Expanse. I love Alex a great bit from that book series and the TV show. I also love Detective Miller. Yeah, there's lots of good characters from that. I'm trying to think of any obvious people I'm forgetting from any of these, or any fictional properties I haven't even thought of. That's probably good. Let's see, next question from Tyrannorex is, what was the most enjoyable moment of your life? Oh my gosh, Tyrannorex asking the big giant questions that are very difficult to answer. Since I have no idea what the most enjoyable moment of my whole life was, or has been, or would be, I'm just gonna say that getting this Kaprasukis has been the highlight of this week. I can't speak for my whole life, because that's really broad, but I can speak for this week, and this Kaprasukis has truly made it better, and you should buy it. I have not been this blindly supportive of a Papo figure in my life. It's a little disgusting, but I'm into it. That's what she said. Final question from Tyrannorex. He asks, what are your top 5 favorite dinosaurs? And Tyrannorex, my friend, I have a notepad document for this, so I'm going to go look that up on the computer. I should have gotten this prepared beforehand. Lists.txt? Yes. Okay, so me and, I think it was just me and Spino Dude and Kikizilla, because Dino Man doesn't like ranking genera. He's too good for that. We were all together figuring out what our favorite dinosaurs, pterosaurs, Paleozoic stuff, other prehistoric, just all the prehistoric things. We were making lists of top 5s and top 10s so that eventually we could sort of tournament our way down to a final list of just our top prehistoric things in general. And actually, it looks like we never got to that stage. We just got to top Cenozoic and Mesozoic, but oh well. I'll go to top dinosaurs, specifically, since your question was what was my top 5 favorite dinosaurs. And my top 5, according to this list, and I still do agree with this now that I'm looking at it, thank goodness. It'd be awkward if I went and looked this up and went, actually, that's wrong, I need to change this. But no, I'd say I still definitely agree with these choices. Number 5 is Deinocheirus, because Deinocheirus is just a wild thing, and I don't know what else to say about it. Number 4 is Diplodocus, gorgeous, iconic sauropod, very nostalgic with walking with dinosaurs and all that. Number 3 is Albertosaurus. Albertosaurus is just, I don't know what to say, man. The body style and the implied potential behavioral and hunting methods of the creature, where it lived, kind of more north. It's just a cool thing. Number 2 is Eutyrannus, because it's paleontologically very important, and I actually talk about that in the pilot episode, so you can go and listen to that if you want. And number 1 is Allosaurus, because Allosaurus, a lot like Eutyrannus, I like both those animals just in terms of their overall, like, kind of body shape and physiology, the potential niche that they probably filled in their ecosystem. But Allosaurus edges out Eutyrannus a little, because even though in some ways, in terms of integument and feather distribution, Eutyrannus is more scientifically important, arguably, Allosaurus, I just connect with it so much. It's so nostalgic because of the old Ballad of Big Al BBC documentary, and just the fact that the bones are so riddled with all these healed injuries and things, and these odd sort of ailments and breaks. It just really indicates this potential for this, like, aggressive, rough and tumble lifestyle. These animals almost being reckless and living a really tough life, and it's just cool to think about. I can't think of another dinosaur that is so renowned for having sort of features to its fossil material that so directly indicate what the average behavior and lifestyle was really like. And that's just really cool. So anyhow, let's see. I think we only have a couple more questions here. We literally only have one more, and it is from GJB2003, and he asks, do you think blobfish are attractive? And the question is yes, when they are intact in the water, down in the depths of the murky abyss where they are supposed to be. When you drag them up on land and they turn into jello, it's disgusting. That is not a proper blobfish. If you look up a healthy living blobfish, you'll see what I'm talking about. The tissue damage they suffer bringing them up to turn them into the meme that we know is just, I mean, I get why it's funny looking, but it's not a respectable blobfish. Come on, people. Anyhow, that is it. We are now almost perfectly at an hour. That actually worked out fantastically well. Next episode, I plan on having someone else on with me. I also plan on maybe coming up with, like, some fun sort of lists to go down or something like that. I think it might be cool if maybe me and another person, like, come up with our top 5 something. And kind of discuss that. Or I'm going to try to go for a format in that kind of area. So anyhow, brief preview for next week or whenever I get the next episode out. I really want to do these weekly, but they're not as easy to do as I had anticipated. They're easy, but they just take time. So there you go. Everything takes time. It's a shame. But yeah, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed listening rather. And yeah, if you want to see more, if you have ideas for what you want to see on this show, then support the show. Let me know what you want to see. I think I'm going to stop actually making community posts to get questions. I think from now on, I'm just going to get questions from the comment sections of these videos. So if you want a question answered on the show, comment it down below. I made a rhyme. Yay. Anyhow, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for listening again. And yeah, this is a fun show, and I will see you all next time.